Hello Saints and welcome to Sound Biblical Doctrine. This study is part 3 of the Tribulation timeline, the one that you can see in front of you. We're going to look at here the 4 horsemen and the 4 beast kingdoms of Revelation. So that's what we're going to begin with, and as you can see in here, unlike the previous ones, we've now got in some years here. We've got 2023 and 2024, and a lot of what's going to be here is specifically to do with the timing is based on the Bible codes, which are going to come in later studies, but this is just an overview as we continue to add to the Tribulation timeline so we can get a picture of what's going on and when things are going to happen. So let's start off. I've got this Tribulation timeline overview here, and I'm going to go along this with a PDF, and we're just going to look through a whole bunch of verses. And like I said, a lot of what's here, the timing, etc., is based off a Bible code, but I want to show you scriptures that help build up a picture of what's going on, and in the later study you can see where the years are coming into it. But I just want to run through the Bible verses relating to the horses, the beasts, and the seals. Okay, so let's get started. So we're going to begin with Revelation 6 verses 1 to 8, and you'll notice that on this here, anything relating to the seals and the horses, they've all got like a number after them. So, when we look here, we have the first seal, first horse, second seal, second horse, third seal, third horse, fourth seal, fourth horse. So that's straight from the scriptures, okay? Let's begin Revelation 6 verses 1 to 8. And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard as it were the noise of thunder, one of the 4 beasts saying, Come and see. And I saw, and behold, a white horse. And he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. And when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, Come and see. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, Come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the 4 beasts say, A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. And when he had opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th beast say, Come and see. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him, and power was given unto him over the 4th part of the earth to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. Okay, so something we're going to see straight away here is that there's a digression in terms of what's going on. So we know that the white horse goes forth to conquer, and from there things just go downhill. We have the second beast, and there was war and people are getting killed. And then there's the third beast, and it's basically people are in slavery because they're working so much for very little. And then the 4th beast, that's death and hell. So this is like a degeneration that occurs with each horse that goes out. We'll get to the white horse first because I don't believe it's a bad thing, but in the same way that Jesus returns on a white horse, the tribulation starts with a white horse. But we'll get more into that as we go, okay? But I just want you to see there's a degeneration with each horse that goes with it. Okay, now let's have a look at Daniel 7 verses 2 to 8. And here we're going to look at, this is the beast kingdoms, okay? So on the chart here we had a quick look there at the verse that covers the horses. Now we're going to have a look at the kingdoms, okay? So the kingdoms are symbolized by beasts. As you can see, the first kingdom is a lion with eagle's wings. The second kingdom is a bear with 3 ribs in his mouth. The third kingdom, like a leopard with 4 heads and 4 wings of a fowl. And the 4th kingdom is like the most terrible kingdom. It's got 10 horns on its head, and it's described as having like iron feet, iron legs. It's really just the terrible kingdom. In this picture, it looks something like a dinosaur. But anyway, let's have a look at Daniel 7 verses 2 to 8. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, And behold, the four winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea. And four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear, and it raised itself up on one side, and it had three ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh. After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it four wings of a fowl. The beast had also four heads, and dominion was given to it. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were three of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. Okay, so I'm going to get into a deeper explanation of this. But what I believe we've seen here is the horses, that's like a spiritual movement that is going on in the earth. And for example, when the first horse goes forth, the white horse, that is when the first kingdom arises. Okay, so we have like a spiritual movement, which is the horses, and then the physical manifestation of that on the earth, and that is the beasts. Okay, and I'm going to do like a kind of quick comparison here. So the first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. Okay, so it goes forth to conquer. And we know that in the scriptures we're told that the lion backs down to nobody. I'm kind of paraphrasing when I say that. But we know this about the lion. It's bold, it's brave, it goes forth to conquer. So that's the first horse, then the lion with the eagle's wings. I believe the eagle's wings are America, and when it says that it's plucked, that's to do with something bad happened to America in the future, okay? But we're not going to get into that just now. The second, the bear, it rises up, and they said, Arise, devour much flesh. So if it's devouring much flesh, that means many people are getting killed. And that's exactly what we see with the red horse. Power was given unto him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that it should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. Okay, so devouring much flesh, that's people dying, and that's exactly what happens with the red horse, is it goes forth and people are being killed. Okay, the third one, the leopard, the key characteristic about the leopard is dominion was given to it. So it's like a dominating force. And this is the dominating force that's putting people in a situation whereby they're working all day for an unjust scale and balance for just enough to eat, because they're being dominated by the spirit, by this kingdom that rises up. And I believe there's like a progression here. So like the first kingdom rises up, the second kingdom rises up and overcomes the first kingdom, and then it kind of doesn't really have an objective or a goal, so that allows the third kingdom to rise up, and then ultimately the fourth kingdom. So they're like, it's not dominoes, but each one has a kind of preeminence, and it's just ultimately a progression to Satan's kingdom, which is the fourth kingdom. But it doesn't just go like bang, we're straight into Satan's kingdom. There's a progression that leads to that. And then we have the fourth beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly. It had great iron teeth that devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. That's the characteristic that we hear about the fourth beast. And when we read about the fourth horse, is death and hell followed with him. And power was given unto him over the fourth part of the earth to kill with the sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. So, like the second one, it's war, and it's killing a lot of people. And the third one, people are getting dominated. But the fourth one is like the worst. So it's worse than 2 and 3. And death and hell, that's basically as bad as things get. Obviously, God's wrath is upon those that have chosen the path of death and hell. So ultimately, God's wrath is greater. But until that point, death and hell have a power, and that's what this fourth kingdom is enforcing upon the earth, and that's what this fourth horse is going to be. But like I said, I'm showing you things just now that are kind of cross confirmations of what I've seen in the Bible studies to do with 2022, 2023, and 2024. But I just want to give you this kind of overview just now, okay? So another thing we notice in Daniel 7 verse 8 is 3 of the first horns were plucked up by the roots. This is the 10 horns. So we see that, we know that like the kingdoms don't all stand at once. Ultimately, the terrible kingdom is the one that rules over the whole earth. And the reason why the first 3 horns are plucked up by the roots is because the first 3 beasts' kingdoms, they're amalgamated into the 4th beast. Okay, so they're like overcome and then integrated into. And this principle of the 3 kings, this is also reiterated in Daniel 7 verses 23 and 24. Thus he said, the 4th beast shall be the 4th kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down, and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them. And he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. Okay, so I believe this is the first 3 kingdoms that are being subdued by the 4th, and because the 4th kingdom rules over the whole earth, that means these first 3 kingdoms must be amalgamated into the beast system. Okay, then we have further confirmation of this in Revelation 13 verses 1 and 2. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority. So you can see here that the characteristics are, it was like a leopard, it had the feet of a bear and the mouth of a lion. And if we look here at 1, the first was like a lion. 2, the second like to a bear. 3, another like a leopard. Yeah, so they're the main bodies of all the beasts, are a lion, a bear, and a leopard. And they are all part of this beast kingdom. We see here in Revelation 13 verses 1 and 2. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and the seat and great authority. So when we see here the dragon gave him his power, his seat and great authority, it's like these kingdoms might not initially have been for Satan's purposes, but ultimately they are then used for Satan's purpose. And it's like I don't know how to best describe it, like a spirit. Like you could have somebody that's a person, that's a good person, but they could have an unclean spirit in them, and then they're used as a tool of Satan. So in a similar respect, we have these kingdoms, and it's the dragon that's given them power and using them. So they're all being used for Satan's purposes, essentially. However, I do believe the first kingdom is a good kingdom. The reason I believe this is because it's symbolized by many of the beasts that are before the throne of God. Okay, so let's have a look at Revelation 4 verses 6 to 8. And before the throne there was a sea of glass like unto crystal, and in the midst of the throne and round about the throne were 4 beasts full of eyes before and behind. And the first beast was like a lion, and the second beast like a calf, and the third beast had a face as a man, and the 4th beast was like a flying eagle. And the 4 beasts had each one of them 6 wings about him, and they were full of eyes within, and they rest not day and night, saying, Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, which was and is to come. So we have here, when we look at the first kingdom, the first was like a lion, 1, and had an eagle's wings, 2, and I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth and was made to stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. So we have like a lion, an eagle, and a man. And when we look before the throne of God, the first beast was like a lion, the second beast was like a calf, that's not there. The third beast had the face as a man, and the fourth beast was like a flying eagle. So there's like three of the, I'm not going to say man's, well, it does say the third beast had a face as a man. So you see what I'm saying is that three of the four of the beasts that were before the throne of God are in this first kingdom. So I believe it's a good thing. And I also, let's go a bit further. My personal conviction is that this first kingdom will be a union of the USA, which is the eagle's wings, with the Kanzak nations, which is Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the UK. And biblically, these are called the young lions in Tarshish. This will also include Israel, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. And Saudi Arabia is biblically called Sheba, and United Arab Emirates are biblically called Dedan. So I think I've touched on this in the 2021 study, so I'm not going to go over that too much. But is there any evidence out there of this materializing? Okay, because let's look at the timeline. We have here that this beast kingdom is going to arise in 2021. Okay, the white horse is going to go forth, and this beast kingdom is going to rise in 2021, which is next year. So there must be some kind of movement on that happening. So, as I'm sure many of you are aware, here in the UK, we voted for Brexit, and that is when we're cutting our ties with the European Union, and we're going to go our own way. However, the thing that seems to be up in the air at the moment is who are we going to do a trade deal with? Who are we going to partner up with now that we've moved away from the European Union? That's the kind of the bit that's really unclear at the moment, because the extension date keeps on getting put back for Brexit as if we're going to make some kind of deal. I believe the scriptures are showing us here that we're not going to make a deal, and that we're going to completely break away, and we're going to do a trade deal with America and the Kanzak countries. Okay, so let's have a look for some evidence of this. So admittedly this is an older article, but excuse me, let me just get rid of that. So this is an older article, and this is John Bolton, who was a part of the Trump administration, saying that the UK is first in line for a trade deal with the US. Okay, so this has been rumbling on for a while. There's probably more up-to-date articles on this, but I just wanted to demonstrate that there are advanced talks between America and the UK on some kind of super trade deal. I think it all hinges upon us actually getting Brexit and cutting all ties with the European Union, essentially getting a no-deal Brexit. That seems to be what everything hinges upon, and once that is the case, then we could do a great trade deal with America. Okay, so that's definitely on the horizon. Okay, that's definitely something that's been talked about and something we can see materializing. So that's like the lion and the eagle's wings, some kind of coalition forming. We also have here, you'll notice recently that there was a peace deal made between Israel and a number of Middle Eastern countries, one of them being the United Arab Emirates. Okay, so let's have a look at that there. We have this article here. And the UAE, Bahrain and Israel signed historic peace deal. Palestinians aren't happy with it. So there seems to be a breakaway visibly happening within the Muslim nations, and because previously they were kind of all of the same mindset toward Israel, but we can see a visual of that fraction coming in now. Okay, and not long after this happened, President Trump said that he believed there would be Saudi Arabia would also make a similar peace deal. And let's have a look for some kind of evidence of that. So we have here up to 9 additional nations could join peace deal with Israel, including Saudi Arabia, Trump says. This was September 15th, 2020. So again, very recent. very recent development, and it certainly points towards this this deal going on with the formation of the line with the eagle's wings, Israel, Tarshish, Sheba, Dedan, the Young Lions, America, all happening. Then, what other evidence do we have? So, regarding the Kanzuk deal, let's have a look here. I've seen some videos on this. Should the UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand reunite after Brexit? Now, historically, these were part of the Commonwealth. You know, these are Commonwealth countries that used to be under the rule of the British Empire, but then they got their own independence. Although we have, I believe they are still part of the Commonwealth, a lot of these countries, and although they're kind of independent, there's still some kind of connection going on. I don't fully understand it, but I know, for example, years ago I went to Canada and it was like the Queen's head was on the money over there. So there's still like a connection going on, even though they have their own parliaments, etc. There's long ties that are still established, and it looks like they could be, I don't know what the term would be, but re-strengthened, re-established. You know, these would be our trading partners essentially, and we would obviously then have defence, the same common interests in defence, and it'd really be the start of like a mega superpower on this earth, a new mega superpower, which would be this lion with the eagle's wings. Okay, so there's a couple of videos here I've got about Kanzuk. In this video here, you can see August 10th, 2020. Brexit, Britain could form new superpower alliance with Australia, Canada, and New Zealand. So again, this hasn't happened yet, but I believe that this will kick in. If looking at the timeline here, I believe this will come into fruition at the end of World War III. This is when we're going to see this kind of super coalition arise. And obviously they'll have had the same goals in terms of defence and countries that they're allies with. Okay, so we will see what happens on that, but I thought it was interesting that there are already movements that are forming the foundations of this union. Okay, so on that basis, we can expect to see Brexit happen, and we can expect to see Donald Trump get re-elected for a second term. I believe there's a prophecy, and if this is something that anybody out there knows something about, I'd love to hear it, but the prophecy of the goat and the ram in Daniel, I believe that's to do with America and Donald Trump, Iran, and it says media. One of the main forces that goes against Donald Trump is the media. And I know historically media was a country, but you know, maybe this is some kind of spiritual message that's going on. Maybe it's like a spiritual war that manifests in a way that we're maybe not expecting to see it. So anyway, I don't fully understand how that's all going to play out. That's something I hope and pray the Lord shows me more about, that I can understand and I can interpret it. But yeah, I really believe that we're going to see Brexit happen, and we're going to see Donald Trump get re-elected for a second term. And I believe that this superpower will be awesome for a time. If we look at the chart here, so if we're looking at the chart, these are like the preeminent powers that operate on the earth. So that's going to have like a preeminent power for 2021 and 2022. Then along comes the bear with 3 ribs. We'll get more into that in a later study. Just now I just kind of want to go overview of this, get some pictures in place, and look at the scriptures pertaining to the beasts and the horses, and yeah, like just kind of get an overview of what's going to happen, and then we'll get into more details in later study. But as we read in the above scriptures, this kingdom will be integrated into the beast system, and therefore it must fall. So as awesome as this kingdom is going to be, and it's almost incomprehensible to think that this union of nations could fall, it does. However, let's not get down about that, because Many of us live in these nations, and I think Brexit and Trump round two is an exciting time. But I really believe that these are movements that are allowing another kingdom to prosper. Okay? The fifth kingdom. We've talked so far about the four beast kingdoms, but there is a fifth kingdom established during the time of the tribulation. A kingdom that is not symbolized by a beast, a kingdom that does not integrate into the beast system, a kingdom that will stand forever and never be destroyed, a kingdom that will destroy the beast system, a kingdom that will consume all other kingdom. And that kingdom is God's kingdom, and it's going to be on earth. Praise the Lord Jesus Christ. How awesome is this going to be? We are going to see God's kingdom being established on this earth during the tribulation. That has got to be one of the most amazing things, and it's going to be so exciting to look forward to. Praise the Lord. Let's have a look here, and I'm not just saying this, let's see what the scriptures say. Daniel 2, verse 44. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Wow, praise the Lord Jesus Christ. That's like one of the most awesome verses in the scriptures. And I don't know about you guys, but with all this COVID stuff, this mass stuff going on, I really feel like we're just heading towards the tribulation, like we're just about to get started. And I'm excited by that. I'm really excited by that because at the moment, so many people, well, maybe prior to this year, so many people were so confident in their unbelief, their secularism, etc. But that confidence is being drained from them right before your very eyes. And it's like a vacuum is being created for the fear of God to come in. And you can see how so many people are going to be saved during this time. Like, so many people are going to have no answers, no confidence. Bang, the fear of God, the tribulation starts, and people are going to be like, we need answers, we need to know what's happening. And the saints are going to come in and give them the answers. And, it's harvest time. It's absolute harvest time. Time to see many souls getting saved, and time to see some of the most amazing things we can ever imagine. It's going to be an awesome time. Okay, so Daniel 2:44. This portion of scripture is from Daniel's interpretation of Nebuchadnezzar's dream, which is a vision of what will happen in the latter days. Okay, so let's have a look here. We have quite a long portion of scripture, Daniel 2 verses 28 to 45. Okay, and I've added in some notes here, but I'll just read this through and then we'll go over the notes, okay? But there is a God in heaven that revealeth secrets, and maketh known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. Thy dream and the visions of thy head upon thy bed are these. As for thee, O king, thy thoughts came into thy mind upon thy bed, what should come to pass hereafter. And he that revealeth secrets maketh known to thee what shall come to pass. But as for me, this secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have more than any living, but for their sakes that shall make known the interpretation to the king, and that thou mightest know the thoughts of thy heart. Thou, O king, sawest and behold a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. The image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon the feet that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art a king of kings, for the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power and strength and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thine hand, and he hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, and as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. For as much that thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it brake in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter, and the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. Okay, so you'll notice here that I have here like a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You'll notice these within the text. Okay, and these are related to the kingdoms that we talked about earlier, and in the order in which they will be. The image's head was of fine gold, number 1. The breast and his arms of silver, 2. His belly and his thighs of brass, 3. Legs of iron, feet of iron, 4. And then the stone cut without hands, that's the fifth kingdom, that's number 5. And also you'll notice in the language that this ties in to the beast kingdoms before. So we have the head of gold. Okay, and it was like this kingdom is a blessing. Wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thine hand, and he hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. So this is like the lion. It's like this one here, the lion. It's like the top. Okay, and it's a blessing. Okay, it's a blessing. This kingdom's a real blessing. The second kingdom is inferior. Okay. The third kingdom is of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. Remember earlier on we talked about the third kingdom dominates? Again, we have this principle here. It will bear rule over all the earth. It's a dominating kingdom. The fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, and it subdues all things, and it breaks in pieces and bruises. This is like this satanic hell death kingdom. Okay, it's just subdues everything. Okay, and then we have the fifth kingdom, the kingdom that will stand forever and will consume all other kingdoms. Yeah, this is the Lord's kingdom on earth. So, we've got the Lord coming back, and we've got the Lord establishing his kingdom on earth. This is going to be incredible, okay? So hopefully, I've just touched on these things. We're going to go in more detail in another study, but I just want you to kind of see this principle. There's 4 beast kingdoms, and then there's the Lord's kingdom, the fifth kingdom. And everything's related, okay? We have 4 horsemen, 4 beast kingdoms. And at the time of the horse, that's when the kingdom arises, okay? That's the principle I really want to get across in this video, okay? And we have here the white horse going forth, and this lion with the eagle's wings, this kingdom arising in 2021 after World War III. In 2023, we have the red horse going forth and causing war, and that's when the bear kingdom rises up. It's not in power for long. It really just paves the way for the black horse and the unjust scale and balances, and that's the beginning of this dominating leopard kingdom with the 4 wings and the 4 heads. And then now ultimately that's just paving way for the beast system, for death and hell, the horse with death and hell in it, and then the beast system being set up ripe for the reign of the Antichrist. Okay, so all these things are going to be in place prior to the Antichrist committing the abomination of desolation, this kingdom's going to be set up. And the only resistance at this point is God's kingdom, because the lion, the bear, and the leopard, they're integrated into this system, into this kingdom by this point. So I know a lot of people are patriotic and love their country, but there's not going to be a country standing against the beast system. It's going to be the Lord's kingdom. Yeah, so just get your head around that. Don't be thinking, oh, this country's going to do this, that, and the other thing. One thing I would say, I do have some kind of hope for, I think America, we're going to talk more about this in another study. We know that the lion gets its wings clipped. The eagle's wings get clipped. But we also know that Israel flees to the wilderness and is given wings of an eagle. So maybe that's America that's involved in that. We need to wait and see how that one plays out, but you know, that's America. The next studies are going to be like I'm probably going to do 2023 is the next tribulation timeline study I'm going to do. And there's a lot of things in that. I'm going to wait till after the election before I bring that one out. But yeah, maybe I'm seem a bit rambling, so that'll make more sense at the time. Okay, but I do feel that in some way the eagle's wings being clipped involves America, but also believe the eagle's wings in Israel fleeing into the wilderness is also tied to America. Okay, so anyway, let's wrap this up. What I would say is, think on this, the second kingdom here is inferior. After thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee. Yeah, so it's inferior to the first one. And this will be relevant in a later study, specifically 2023, as this gives us an insight into what motivates the second kingdom to behave in a certain manner. Okay, so it's like an inferiority complex, and that eats away at people, and that can cause them to do things that are irrational, but if it's God's will, what can we do? We just better know about it ahead of time and be prepared and take steps. Okay, so I hope this study's been a blessing to you. God bless you, and I will see you